Hi, I'm Stuart from the Norfolk Honey Company and welcome back to Pete's barn. We've come over to visit Pete, who has been helping us through the summer with all of our beekeeping to make up some eeks for this winter. It's something that I've been meaning to do for some time, and as you all know, my woodworking skills are not particularly great, so I've come over to get some help from Pete and to show you actually that it's quite straightforward and simple to be able to make yourself an eek. You can of course buy them, but they do seem to be fairly expensive, where we can just turn to using some very basic materials to create our own eeks. And because we've got several polyhives now, and we're going to be using an oxalic acid sublimation over the winter, I wanted to make sure that we had some wooden eeks so that we could use the nozzle on the sublimator to get the oxalic acid vapours into the hive without melting the polystyrene, because the nozzle is going to be quite hot. So that's the main reason for producing these eeks. And I know that a lot of people also use them above the hive to then put in some insulation to be able to give the bees that additional protection. It's not something that I've ever done, but it is something this year that we're going to have a go at, give it a try, see what happens, and report back and show you the effects that has on the hive. So, in true DIY style, here's an eek that we've already prepared and made, and this is 2x1 roofing batten. So it's an economical piece of timber, so that's about 50 by 25 millimeters. And this particular one is for our Happy Valley Honey Langstroth hives. So this has been made specifically to go onto the Langstroths. And we've also got a range of Maysmore poly hives that are 500mm square, so a different size to this, that we're going to make for those poly hives as well. So Pete has already very kindly cut the timber to length for me, because he's got one of those very sharp electric saws that will take my fingers off probably. So we've got our pieces of roofing batten, and it's just simply a case of screwing them together. We've tried nailing them and we've tried screwing them, and the screws hold the wood a lot more rigidly than just using a nail. So you could use either, and because it's just a temporary winter addition to the hive, you could get away with just nailing it, but I think it might also split the timber if you just put a nail straight through, and because of that we're also pre-drilling the wood, because I think if we screwed straight through it we'd also split the wood as well. So let me show you what we've got and how we're going to build this eek ready to go onto the bees. So what we've got is a handsaw for cutting the lengths of wood. As I say, Pete has very kindly used his electric saw, his table saw, to cut the lengths of wood for us. But you could get away with using a handsaw. We've got our screws, our drills to do the pre-drilling, and then to screw the screws through the wood and hold it all together. And these are our pieces of batten. As I say, they're just roofing batten, 2 inches by 1 inch, so it's 50mm by 25 or thereabouts. And we're just going to drill the outside. Now you can see that we've got different lengths here. These are for our Langstroth poly hives. You just need to measure the outside length of the hive. So for the Maysmore hives we're using 500mm as our longest piece, and then on the other side we're cutting it 50mm shorter, which will accommodate the two shorter lengths. So without further ado, let's just pre-drill these end pieces and then we can screw it all together. So just for demonstration, we're going to just draw a line on the piece of wood that we're going to drill, so we can now show you where we're going to drill the holes. Obviously move the piece of wood off the table so you don't drill into the table, and then we're going to put 2 holes top and bottom ready to screw through into the shorter lengths. And so we'll just repeat this process for the other end of this piece of wood, and then we'll repeat it again for the other longer piece of wood for the other side. So we've got our 4 pieces of wood already in position to now screw together, pre-drilled, so we're not going to split the wood. You could always use a little bit of wood glue to give a little bit of extra security. We've got some stainless steel screws here that we're going to use. Just make sure that the screw length is long enough to go into the wood sufficiently to hold it all together nice and firmly. So we'll just pop one in. And you could of course clamp this down to the workbench, make sure that everything is nice and square. Or if you've got another pair of hands that can step in and help, then that would also be useful. The second screw. And now all we have to do is to repeat it for all 4 corners. So here's the eek completed. This will now sit quite nicely on top of our Langstroth hives. Before we go, I just wanted to mention my weekly podcast. If you'd like to listen to the podcast, then check it out on iTunes or any of the podcast players. It's called Beekeeping Short and Sweet, and it's a short podcast with lots of beekeeping information and chat, and it'd be great to share that with you. So we're going to carry on making some more of these eeks now for the rest of our beehives, and then we'll record another video once we've got them all made, taking them out to the bees before the weather gets too cold and placing them on the hives. And then again through the winter we'll show you how we're going to use these with the oxalic acid sublimator. Don't forget to check out our Patreon page where you can have access to lots more content, and I'll leave the information in the description below. But until next time, thanks for watching.